Number 10. Tarot. Tarot is Marie-Ange Colbert, a mutant we haven't heard from in a while, but who has recently turned up at least via text if not visually in the Dawn of X line. During the Ten of Swords event, she was the one to receive and communicate the powerful tarot reading that seemed to be reappearing all over the world. Tarot's mutant powers are precognition, which through the use of her tarot cards gives her amazingly accurate and specific readings pertaining to the future of an individual or an event. She has also been able to get readings on past events as well. It's a very specific mutant power that is pretty intimately tied to the mystic arts via the power of tarot. But still, anytime you can read the future, I think that's pretty powerful.
Before we get on to the next one, just want to remind you guys, take a second to hit that like button. It really helps us out here at Top 10 Nerd. Number 9. Pixie. Part of an immortal race known as the Eternals, Pixie is a free-spirited superhero who was present and defended the Earth during the Skrull invasion. Pixie is actually one of the few survivors from the first line, and set off the chain reaction that helped to destroy the Skull Armada. After this, she retired from adventuring on Earth, but occasionally still assisted her fellow Eternals. When the X-Men went to the Himalayas and encountered Yeti, she was the one who showed up and helped to take him down, having worked with Yeti in the past as part of the first line. After the Civil War, Tony Stark considered her as a potential recruit for the initiative. She has a set of superpowers common to all Eternals, including super strength, flight, psionic abilities, and she can even project energy, but not at the same level as some other Eternals. She is immortal and already hundreds of years old, and has a natural psychic block in place to prevent mind reading and mind control.
Number 8. Jennifer Kale. Jennifer Kale became a magical hero and ally to the Man-Thing at a young age. She was a teenager who was interested in magic, and using a mystical tome she'd found while visiting her grandfather, accidentally summoned a demon, not knowing that the demon would not be under her control. The Man-Thing saved her, and it was revealed later on that he and she had a psychic link. Dakeem the Enchanter eventually revealed himself to both Jennifer and Man-Thing, and had them both prove they were worthy before taking on Jennifer as his apprentice. He had been a student of Zared-Na before him, a powerful sorceress who believed that demons from the realm of Somnus would someday threaten the fate of the Earth, attempting to invade. Dakeem gave Jennifer the raiments of a priestess of Zared-Na and helped her to recover the tome of Zared-Na from another dimension, helping to protect the Earth against a demon invasion. Jennifer is also an ally of Howard the Duck, and over the years has become a highly skilled magic user.
Number 7. Day Tripper. Born with the name Jemaine Zardos, she is the daughter of a powerful Romani sorceress and grew up in the circus with her brother. His name was Stefan, and he suffered bouts of homicidal madness occasionally. The family adopted Nightcrawler in his youth, and he made a pact with his crazy brother that he would kill him if he ever became too violent. This eventually does happen, and it really blows up the whole family, with the mother Margali seeking revenge for Nightcrawler for killing her son. But anyway, back to Day Tripper. She was first introduced as Amanda Sefton, a flight attendant who dates Kurt Wagner, aka Nightcrawler. When Kurt joined the Excalibur team, he asked her to also join, as they often go up against magical opponents. She once attempted to become Doctor Strange's disciple, and also helped to retrieve Captain Britain from the Time Stream. She has also aided the X-Men in battle against the Hellfire Club. She is a sorceress who follows the path of the Winding Way, and she is quite powerful, capable of teleportation, casting illusions, and hypnotism, as well as shapeshifting.
Hellstorm. Hellstorm or Hellstrom? Well, actually, if we are talking about the heroic persona of Damon, then in most cases it's going to be Hellstorm. Hellstrom is Damon's legal last name as the son of the devil who came to Earth for a time to basically sire children. Hellstorm, fun fact, used to be married to Hellcat, Patsy Walker. I just like that they both have hell in their main hero mantle. It's pretty great. Also, that relationship ended terribly though. Terribly. Damon Hellstrom, being the son of the devil, is also the heir to Hell, although he spent a lot of time not wanting to accept this responsibility as he often wrestled with the evil within him. Damon actually was originally planning on becoming a priest before he learned of his true heritage via his mother's diary. He has not only been an adventurer and a superhero fighting alongside the Defenders, but has also been an occult detective and an exorcist as well, seeking to better understand his heritage while also actively fighting against it and his father's will.
Number 5. Sister Grimm. Sister Grimm was part of a team known as the Runaways that had its run in 2003. The Runaways were a group of teens who discovered their parents were part of a crime ring known as the Pride that planned to destroy and rebuild the Earth. The Runaways fight to stop them, and one of them is Sister Grimm, who inherited powers and technology from her parents. At one point, she re-encounters her parents after running away, and her mother points her staff at her chest, which becomes absorbed by her body. This is actually her main weapon, the Staff of One, and it is only released from her body when she bleeds. She has magical aptitude in her blood, but not the usual formal training. However, after her encounter with the Witchbreaker, her power improves, and she can now levitate, teleport using portals, and even fly. She can also cast spells that change her surroundings, like transforming the inside of a building. She is part of Strange Academy, the professor of creative spellcasting. This is a perfect role for her, as part of the way her staff works is she can never use the same spell twice. If she casts a spell she's already used a second time, not only will it not work, but it may even have an unintended effect.
Number 4. Dr. Voodoo. Brother Voodoo, aka Jericho Drum, was considered skilled and disciplined enough to actually become the new Sorcerer Supreme, becoming Dr. Voodoo. Big, exciting level up for Jericho. Initially, Jericho never wanted the responsibility of becoming a Hungan, but after the death of his brother, Daniel, swore to him that he would train in the mystical arts and take his place, seeking to avenge his brother's death. Voodoo carries his brother's spirit with him, which helps to bolster his power. He was chosen later on to become Sorcerer Supreme by Agamotto. The Eye of Agamotto left Stephen Strange and instead sought out his replacement, choosing Brother Voodoo because he was considered pure of heart and at the time a much better candidate. Doctor Strange was basically doing some super dark things at the time, although he did have his reasons. Jericho is a skilled magic user, capable of manipulating the elements and mystical creatures. He's also capable of hypnosis, flight, and teleportation. And he's also a trained psychologist. Bonus!
Number 3. Man-Thing. Man-Thing is a tragic dude. He was a biochemistry professor named Ted Sallis, working on Project Sulfur, which aimed to allow soldiers to survive biochemical weapons. It was developed into serum SO2, and it worked, but had the unfortunate side effect of turning its users into monsters. He once worked alongside Dr. Kurt Connors and tried to improve his serum into a super soldier serum, like the one used on Captain America. His wife becomes bitter after being neglected for so long while he's focused on his work, and she eventually sells him out to greedy AIM agents seeking to steal his technology. As he's escaping from their ambush, he injects himself with the only existing sample of the serum, right before his car crashes into the swamp. The magical energies of the swamp and the serum combine to transform him into a hideous 7-foot swamp monster. Man-Thing gets into some crazy mystical stuff, helping Doctor Strange with fixing the shattered nexus of all realities. He is basically vegetable matter formed with mystical energy and swamp mutations all wrapped up in a lovely package. As the guardian of the nexus of all realities, he has some serious mystical responsibilities. He is also very powerful, with his abilities including regeneration, teleportation, and even reality displacement. Also, his porous form is resistant to many forms of attacks, as fists or bullets just pass right through him.
Number 2. Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch is one of the most powerful magic users we have in Marvel, although the results of her magic can sometimes be unpredictable. Like during the Empire event when she accidentally created a ton of mutant zombies in her attempt to properly resurrect all the lives lost in the Genosha Mutant Massacre. Still, Scarlet Witch is powerful enough that she has been considered as a candidate for Sorcerer Supreme. She can use her powers to manipulate time, reality, and probability, as well as project energy, create force fields, cast spells, heal, create magical weapons, enhance her own physical prowess, and teleport. Wow, that's a lot of stuff. That's like stuff I'm just saying and you could speed me up saying it and then like make it scroll because it's so much stuff. The problem is simply that things don't always turn out the way Wanda had envisioned, and her mental state often affects her actions, making her appear sometimes even villainous, when that is generally the furthest thing that Wanda wants, to alienate herself. She is often just a character seeking love and acceptance who struggles to find where she belongs and sometimes to find her own sense of independence and confidence.
And here we are at number 1, Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange was a brilliant but arrogant neurosurgeon who mangled his hands in a car accident and became seriously distraught. When modern medicine failed him, he went on a journey leading him to Tibet, where he trained with the Ancient One. healing his hands, learning about magic, and eventually rising to the rank of Master of the Mystic Arts. He is the Sorcerer Supreme for the Marvel Prime Universe. And Strange has a really storied past, having been affiliated with many superhero teams and taking part in some incredible storylines throughout his history. I really love how Doctor Strange goes from arrogant doctor who only cares about money to a broken man who literally sells all his possessions to travel to the East, later discovering not only is magic real, but that he can control it. As the Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Strange is immensely powerful, and he also has a whole collection of powerful artifacts at his disposal. He is an expert in the Black Priest's ability to use language to distort reality, using the power of the words to create energy blasts, organic disintegration, and even paralysis. He can channel the extra-dimensional energy of mystical beings to empower his spells. And it's been said that Doctor Strange is as powerful as the god he invokes.
Number 10. Magic. Ilyana Rasputin is a mutant and the sister of the famous X-Man, Colossus. She was born in Russia, but when she was very young, she was kidnapped by a being known as Belasco and taken to Limbo, also known as Other Place. It was there she not only learned how to control her own abilities, but was taught even more during her time there. Eventually, she became powerful enough to escape, although when she returned, she found out that only a few seconds had gone by on Earth, whereas for her, it had been years. She then went on to join the New Mutants and took on the name Magic. Her powers include stepping discs, which allow her to teleport great distances and through time. She also is a master of sorcery because of her time in Limbo. Number 9. Raven. Rachel Roth is the daughter of the demon Trigon and human Angela Roth. For most of her life, Raven had no idea who her father was. She was raised in an alternate dimension called Azarath by the goddess Azar. It was there where she learned to control and harness her abilities and emotions. It was Azar's hope that this would help Raven fend off her father's influence once, she eventually returned to Earth. Eventually, Azar passed away and Raven learned of her father, who, of course, went after her. Raven left Azarath and went to Earth. She wanted to recruit other heroes to help her in her fight against her father. Unfortunately, she was rejected by the Justice League, which forced her to create her own team, the Teen Titans. They managed to stop Trigon, but obviously not for good. Bad guys never say gone forever. He eventually did end up coming back again. Raven is very powerful. She's able to cast magic spells, fly, teleport, use telekinesis, astral projection, and darkness manipulation. Number 8. Wiccan. Wiccan, also known as Billy Kaplan and formerly known as the hero Asgardian, was revealed to be one of the long-lost children of Scarlet Witch and Vision. His powers come from the same form of chaos magic as his mother, whereas his twin brother Speed inherited similar abilities to their uncle Quicksilver. Billy grew up in New York with his adoptive parents who, he thought were his real ones for the longest time, Rebecca and Jeff Kaplan. Billy was bullied all the time because of his sexual orientation, and one day after being beaten up by John Kessler, Billy decided to go to his favorite place in the entire world, the Avengers Mansion. It was there he met his favorite Avenger, Scarlet Witch, who gave him advice on how to stand up to the bully. He didn't really take the advice right away, he kept trying to avoid the problem, and then one day he noticed John tormenting another kid and decided, you know what, enough is enough. He stood up to John, which in turn ended up unlocking his abilities, resulting in him almost killing him. Later on, he ended up becoming a member of the Young Avengers and is in a relationship with fellow Young Avenger, Hulkling. Wiccan has a wide array of abilities that include, teleportation, flight, mystical reality warping, force fields, telekinesis, and telepathy. One thing to note is that he is still young. Many believe that, as he gets older, he'll become even more powerful, so, odds are, he will only get closer to the top of this list as the years go on. Number 7. Zatanna. Zatanna is a powerful magical magician. She's the daughter of the famous magician John Zitara and magical user Cinderella, who was a member of the magical group The Hidden Ones. For most of her life, Zatanna believed her mother died when she was, really young, which turned out obviously not to be true. It turns out she faked her own death so she could be with her own people. She was primarily raised by her father John, who took her all around the world, helping her learn and control the magical abilities she inherited. Unfortunately, an evil witch, Allura, cursed Zatanna, and she couldn't see her father ever again. But she was eventually able to break that curse, but it just took a really long time. Also, when she casts spells, in order for them to work, she needs to say them backwards. She's also been a member of the Justice League and Justice League Dark. She can also use her spells to control fire, air, ice, earth, plants, and she can also fly, control the weather, and make illusions, use telekinesis, telepathy, travel to different dimensions, and create force fields. Number 6. John Constantine. Oh man, John Constantine. As I mentioned in a previous video, I know in the original source material it's pronounced Constantine, but in all of his live action appearances and animated appearances, he's referred to as Constantine, and honestly that's just kind of the preferred pronunciation nowadays. Okay, so John Constantine is a magical con man. He was born in Liverpool and raised in London. He's a master of the dark arts and smokes a ton of cigarettes and says whatever he wants, and that's usually why he tends to rub people the wrong way. But you know, he honestly doesn't care. One of the most famous stories regarding John is the Newcastle incident. When he was younger and not as skilled in magic, John made a fatal mistake that would haunt him for the rest of his life. John was called to help a young girl named Astra. She was possessed by a demon, so John decided to summon his own demon to get rid of the one that was in Astra. It worked, but John lost control of the demon he summoned, and it ended up taking young Astra back down to hell with it. John has become one of the most powerful magic users in the DC world, and since he is a master of the dark arts and practiced magic his entire life, John can, cast spells, he can summon demons, obviously, and travel to different dimensions. Number 5. Shazam. Originally known as Captain Marvel, Shazam is a superhero from the DC universe. Now, there have been a few different origins for Shazam. Today I am going to talk about the one that came out of the New 52, which was the main, inspiration for the 2019 film Shazam. Billy Batson is an orphan who consistently ran away from every new family that he was ever put with. Eventually, the Vasquez family adopts him, and that's when things start to change in a way. They are a very loving family with multiple adopted children. Of course, this still doesn't stop Billy from just trying to leave at the first chance he gets. One night, Billy sneaks out to visit a tiger at the zoo, Mr. Tawny, but is followed by his new adopted brother Freddy. They then decide to take revenge on these bullies from their school, who have, tormented the family for the last few years. Of course, something goes wrong and the bullies find them. Billy then decides to distract them, which allows his brother Freddy to get away. He then escapes onto the subway and is taken to the mystical fortress known as the Rock of Eternity. From there, the wizard known as Shazam sees Billy's potential and how he has a good heart and bestows his powers onto him. So now he can stop Black Adam and the 7 deadly sins. Now, to access these powers, all he has to say is Shazam, and he transforms into a full-grown adult with powers. The wisdom of Solomon, the strength of Hercules, the stamina of Atlas, the power of Zeus, the courage of Achilles, and the speed of Mercury. Number 4. Scarlet Witch. Wanda Maximoff comes from the Marvel Universe and has a very complicated history. For a very long time, it was believed she and her twin brother Pietro, aka Quicksilver, were the kids of, supervillain Magneto, but that ended up not being the case and was later changed. Turns out Wanda and her brother were taken from their real parents when they were very young and experimented on by the High Evolutionary. So not only did they reveal that Magneto wasn't her true father, it also revealed that she wasn't technically even a mutant either. Back to the main point, Scarlet Witch is just insanely powerful. I mean, she can manipulate and warp reality and is able to cast very powerful spells. Wanda has even been a member of the Avengers and ended up having 2 kids with fellow Avenger Vision, one of which we mentioned earlier on the list. During the events of the House of M storyline, which is now referred to as M-Day, Wanda uttered the words "no more mutants" and caused almost the entire mutant population to lose their powers. Oh jeez. Number 3, Dr. Fate. Now, Dr. Fate is a DC character that has been the title of different people over the years, but today I'm going to talk about the one that's arguably the most famous, Kent Nelson. Ken was the son of an archaeologist. Him and his father were exploring a tomb and accidentally awoke Naboo the Wise, which ended up releasing this poison gas and took the life of Kent's father. Naboo decided to take Kent on as his apprentice, even though, Ken didn't really want to. So Naboo erased all of Kent's memories of his father and began to train him. He eventually became very, very powerful in the ways of magic, and Naboo decided to give him his memories back. Of course, Kent wasn't really happy about the whole situation, but Naboo explained that he was the Lord of Order and has been fighting the never-ending battle between order and chaos. Before leaving, Naboo gave Kent a golden amulet and helmet. He told Kent that these 2 items would grant him even more power, and of course, Naboo's spirit is directly tied to the helmet, so anyone that ends up putting it on is connected with him. Dr. Fate went on to be one of the founding members of the Justice Society of America, and he has a wide array of abilities, flight, spells, telekinesis, enhanced strength, speed, invisibility, time travel, reality manipulation, and of course, is immortal. Number 2, the Spectre. Also from DC, the Spectre is a mystical being who, like Dr. Fate, has been linked to multiple people throughout the years. The most popular version being Jim Corrigan, a cop who was murdered by a gang. Hal Jordan, also known as Green Lantern, has also been the Spectre at one point in the comics, and one of the more recent ones was Oliver Queen, aka the Green Arrow, during the Arrowverse crossover event Crisis on Infinite Earths, based on the comic of the same name. The Spectre's powers are directly tied to the Presence, which is kind of like DC's version of God, in a sense. His mission is to deliver God's vengeance upon those who are evil. Now, on his own, his powers are essentially limitless, but in order to operate on Earth, he needs to have a human host. And that's where, some of his limitations come in. Although, that doesn't really stop him from being one of the most powerful beings in the universe. He has been a crucial part of multiple world-ending threats in the DC world, the most famous being Crisis on Infinite Earths, where he helped the Paragons stop the Anti-Monitor. And, fun fact, he is also one of the founding members of the Justice Society of America. His powers include immortality, reality alteration, dimension travel, flight, super strength, fear projection, invisibility, and the list just goes on and on. The guy can basically do anything, and he's pretty awesome. Number 1, Doctor Strange. Was there ever any doubt? Magic and Doctor Strange, they just go hand in hand together. Dr. Stephen Strange hails from the Marvel Universe. He was a highly skilled surgeon who got into a terrible accident, permanently damaging the nerves in his hands. Stephen tried to heal his hands any way he could, but nothing was working. Modern medicine was just failing him. So he decided to go beyond that. That's when he found the Ancient One, who taught him in the ways of magic. One of the things I admire most about Doctor Strange is that he has truly grown as a character. He was this jerk with just a massive ego and thought nothing bad would ever happen to him, but of course, that's not how life works. And after the accident, he trained for years and years to become the most powerful sorcerer in the Marvel Universe. And, that is pretty awesome. His powers include casting spells, astral projection, flight, because of his handy dandy cloak of levitation, protective shields, illusions, time manipulation, telekinesis, and dimensional travel.
And at number 10, Punk Mambo. From the Valiant universe, Punk Mambo is a series about a hard-living voodoo priestess. Raised in London, relocated to the Bayou. A mystical mercenary for hire, often helping the wayward, troubled, and damned with what afflicts them, she does it for a price, often a steep one. Mambo, whose real name is Victoria Greaves Trott, is described as a street-savvy British punk with a rich cultural history of voodoo, and she battles the forces of evil too. So, what is this priestess capable of? Astral projection, hypnosis, illusion casting, magic, duh, necromancy, longevity, she doesn't age, and unarmed combat. She also has enhanced senses. Neat. Next up, in at number 9, Blue Boy. Blue Boy is a character from Fables, a series published by Vertigo, which, yes, is owned by DC, but cut us some slack here, friends. The series features characters from fairy tales and folklore who call themselves Fables, and live in a centuries-old community within New York City after their homelands were conquered by a deadly and mysterious enemy known as the Adversary. Blue is known as a hero, and he was a former farmhand and warrior before becoming a clerk at the business office in Fabletown. And he's magical! He's immortal, as all Fables are, and carries around something called a Vorpal Blade, which can cut through most spells and enchantments. He also has a witching cloak which acts as an impregnable armor that cannot be burned, stretched, or ripped. It also has an endless personal carrying capacity and can give the wearer shapeshifting abilities. Crap, hook me up with one of those, please. Where do I buy on Amazon? In at number 8, Marco from Saga. While Saga hardly feels like an indie comic these days and is published by Image Comics, it's definitely by far one of the best and most popular series outside of DC and Marvel series. Saga is the story of a fugitive family struggling to survive a galactic war between the Wreath and the Landfall. Alana and Marco, our somewhat protagonist parents, were born on opposite sides of the war, becoming star-crossed lovers who have a child, Hazel, who narrates the series. It's a sci-fi meets fantasy, and it's got its fair share of magic. Marco was born on Wreath and has magical abilities that are quite unique. He has disintegration abilities in which he uses the ingredients of secrets to disintegrate hostile plant life. He can use binding spells to trap enemies together. He has healing abilities, but for healing big wounds he requires snow as an ingredient in the spell. Now that last one is something that he can only do to others born on Wreath if he needs to heal them. And he's also capable of electrokinesis, in which he can summon lightning strikes. Up next, number 7, Dee from Rat Queens. Dee, which is short for Delilah, is a human cleric, an atheist, and a character who hails from a family of Lovecraftian monster cultists who praised a flying squid god called Nyrgoth. Nagrioth?
I'm probably saying that wrong. It's a squid god, so cut me some slack. She used to be the high priestess of said cult, but having become disillusioned by the horrible things her family worshipped, she left and began to travel on her own, which is how she met the other rat queens in the series. These days she mostly uses her magic for healing, but is also capable of necromancy, and she is skilled with a dagger. In at number 6, Snow White. Snow White is the deputy mayor of Fabletown, and is one of the main characters we follow throughout the series of fables. She was the first wife of Prince Charming before falling for Bigby Wolf and getting married to him. So, what is Snow capable of? A lot, actually. She's pretty bad. For starters, she's immortal like all fables, but her magical abilities are where it's at. She is a descendant of a particularly magical line, inheriting great natural power, and she reeks of elegant energies, according to Prince Brandish. She can conjure armor and weapons, and she can fly, which is pretty darn cool. She also has superhuman durability, which allows her to be virtually invulnerable. She's been shot in the head and has survived from it. In addition to that, she also speaks German, can manage the hell out of a business, and is an expert at fencing and knows her way around hand-to-hand combat. Up next, number 5, Witchblade. Witchblade, the series published by Top Cow Productions, follows a character named Sarah Panezzi, an NYPD homicide detective who comes across a gauntlet artifact. That artifact is Witchblade, a supernatural sentient piece of armor that bonds with a female host, providing her a ton of magical superpowers in order to fight off evil. Now, the woman who wields Witchblade gets this laundry list of cool abilities. She can shapeshift, has superhuman strength and endurance, a healing factor which extends to fatal wounds, invulnerability, pyrokinesis, tactile healing, the healing of illnesses and wounds of other creatures, summoning for weapons and whatnot, and an adaptive armor which covers its host entirely depending on the situation. The armor is incredibly strong and impervious to firearms, explosives, and even energy blasts. But take that gauntlet off and oof, no bueno. Moving on to number 4, Lucifer. The Wicked and the Divine is a really awesome series. It's a contemporary fantasy comic book published by Image Comics, highly influenced by pop music, and follows various mythological deities. So of course Lucifer the fallen angel is in it. Lucifer is the devil and one of the gods of the pantheon in the Divine and the Wicked. She's pretty impressive in terms of her abilities. She's a pyrokinetic, able to produce fires as she pleases, and the ability to cause foes to combust. She can also use the ability to cause foes to combust, create entire walls of fire, or use it with such precision as to destroy bullets. She can also use this fire as a force field to protect herself, and she has the ability to grant powers to an extent, and can teleport to the underground. Speaking of the Divine and the Wicked, that brings us to our next number. In at 3, Laura Wilson. The narrative of the Divine and the Wicked follows our number here, Laura, who interacts with the Pantheon, a group of 12 people who are reincarnated deities. They end up getting supernatural powers, but there is a stipulation. They will die within 2 years as part of a 90-year cycle called the Recurrence. Laura briefly becomes the reincarnation of Persephone, the goddess of springtime, vegetation, flowers, fertility, nature, death, rebirth, and of course, the queen of the underworld. Moving on to number 2, Frau Tokenkinder. Frau Tokenkinder is from Fables, and she's known as the Black Forest Witch. She's a powerful member of the 13th floor in Fabletown, the group of witches and sorcerers who provide enhancements and spells that keep the community safe and cloak the magical nature of its inhabitants from the outside world. Often her spells come at a steep price. She's been around since the Paleolithic era. Her natural form is a beautiful young woman, but she normally appears as old. Also, she passed away. She's the former leader of the 13th floor. So when she was alive and kicking, what could she do, magically speaking? Well, for starters, she was immortal. She used to sacrifice 2 children a year so she wouldn't age. That is intense. She was capable of precognition, witchcraft that allowed her to self-resurrect, create her own spells, including the death curse others, of course, magical energy blasts, elemental manipulation, mind control, shapeshift, transmutation, portal creation, magical tool creation, and also had an extreme knowledge of all things occult. Yeah, not too shabby. And finally, in at number 1, Anake. Anake is the personification of inevitability, compulsion, and necessity in the Divine and the Wicked. Anake has immense powers and is considered one of the most powerful gods in the series. She is the one who acts as an advisor to the Pantheon, informs them that they are gods, and begins their incarnation. While she cares a great deal for the others, she always prioritizes the recurrence over the lives of the individuals. So, what can she do? She is capable of divine incarnation and bestowing powers, being the one who is in charge of each individual's ascension into godhood. She grants them the divine powers. She can manipulate and project energy. She likes to explode heads, and has a great deal of control over said power. She can atomize humans if she chose to do so. She can project force fields and siphon energy, and she's got an immense tolerance to pain. She's immortal, duh, and can split her consciousness into 2 entirely different bodies.
Kicking off the list at number 10, we have Mojo World. This first one sounds fun, like for a bit, but then it becomes a nightmare if you're actually there. Mojo World is an extra-dimensional and extra-temporal realm inhabited by the spineless ones. Their world is pretty unique. See, what happens is that the signals from Earth, be it radio or television, get distorted and sent through time to these spineless ones, and it happened early in their existence too. So now, the species loves televised entertainment, as do we. Who knows, maybe they're watching WandaVision season 4 right now. We never know, it's all crazy up there. They feared humans, but were in awe of them. Kind of like most humans. Like, I like Chris, but you know, you never know. You never know. There is a ruler, of course, there is a ruler, and his name is Mojo, and he produces movies and TV shows to keep the spineless ones entertained. Are you not entertained? Mojo World is an interdimensional world home to beautiful mountains, rivers, oceans, and of course, the occasional plasma storm. So bring your interdimensional umbrella and some popcorn because Mojo World is pretty weird yet entertaining. And before we go on to number 9, if you guys could go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, it really does wonders for our channel. You guys are the best, thank you so much. Now back to some more marvelous magical worlds. Number 9, Otherworld. Otherworld is a pocket dimension adjacent to Earth, and its purpose is to serve as a nexus to other dimensions within our reality and also other realities in the multiverse. So if you're guarding Otherworld, you're basically guarding the intersection between all of realities. No pressure. The Celtic powers of Otherworld match those of Asgard, which I will of course talk about later on in this list. And since it's a nexus between realities, there's a number of provinces that coexist on Otherworld, like Avalon and Dryador. See, some kingdoms have existed for quite some time, and others are still pretty fresh. At the center of Otherworld, we have the Starlight Citadel, the headquarters of the Omniversal Guardian, and it acts as this meeting point for all of these realities that I mentioned. It's beautiful. Number 8, the Dark Dimension. The Dark Dimension is also referred to as Subware, not somewhere, but Subware. It's actually where all of our subscribers come from, actually. No, I'm just kidding. The Dark Dimension first popped up in comics with Strange Tales issues 126. It's the place Dormammu and Umar were both banished to by the Fall Team. See, it started off as this massive singular plane, but during a conflict, it was shattered into multiple planes, like the Splinter Realms or the Archipelago of Anguish and Redemption, which is fun to say. We of course see the Dark Dimension in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a void within the multiverse. The Masters of the Mystic Art managed to protect Earth from the Dark Dimension by building 3 sanctums, one in London, one in Hong Kong, and of course the one we all know the best, the one in New York, where Doctor Strange resides currently. I feel like we're not quite done with the Dark Dimension in the MCU, at least I hope we're not, because it's one of the coolest places I've seen. Aside from number 7, the Astral Plane. The Astral Plane is an alternate dimension that has an equivalent space to our own, where matter is composed of ectoplasm. We see Stephen Strange get popped into the Astral Plane in Doctor Strange, well, rather the Astral Dimension in that movie. See, it's a parallel dimension where the soul exists outside of its body, and to access it, you have to be successfully separated from your physical form, which isn't something that you do. You can't just sneeze and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, what happened? Oh, bless you. Thanks. You're welcome. You have to exist in a pure energy form, so you might need a wizard or two. We see this plane in other Marvel properties as well, like in Black Panther, Eric Killmonger and the Black Panther are able to have a conversation with their deceased fathers, and when they wake up, it's like no time has passed at all. Well, that's because in the astral plane, time is slowed way down. So much so, in fact, that when Stephen Strange uses it, he's able to leave his body, have a conversation with the Ancient One, and then return to his body before his body even hits the ground. So blink and you just may miss it. Number 6, Nexus of all realities. The Nexus is a cross-dimensional gateway that provides a pathway to any and all possible realities. And I mean all of them, even the realities between realities. In its comic origins, it's actually unknown if some being created it or if it just happens to be the one place in the multiverse where all realities just happen to naturally intersect. And we see it for the first time in Fear issue 11. We see it in Man-Thing's swamp in Bywater, New Orleans. The ancestors referred to the area of the swamp called Darkwater as the nexus of all realities. So next time you take a dip in a swamp, you just might be not in our dimension anymore. So I don't know, maybe hold your breath, plug your nose. You don't know where you're gonna end up in that puddle. Number 5, Soul World. One of the many conversations I had with friends after we saw Infinity War for the first time was where exactly Thanos went after he snapped his fingers. It was this large orange paradise almost. It looked like the place where you fight Dark Link in Ocarina of Time, but with more orange. Just an opening, confusing area. Well, it turns out this was a brief look at Soul World. It was originally included in Avengers Endgame after Tony snaps his fingers, but it was deleted to avoid more Zelda flashbacks. No, Soul World is the dimension existing inside of the Soul Gem. So while Thanos was in this pocket dimension briefly, he spoke to a younger version of Gamora. And in the comics, Gamora learns about Soul World's decay because a fragment of her own soul was still trapped in Soul World. So with Gamora being the key that led Thanos to gaining this Infinity Stone, one could only hope that somehow she's still in there alive. Or maybe Black Widow, maybe? No? Please? Number 4, Hell. Hell is a world bound to the mind of its mistress and queen. Hela, ruler of the dead. The realm shifts by her will, its laws are ancient and her whims can twist those laws until they scream. Sounds lovely, let's do it, grab the kids, great. Valhalla is a realm of honor, Faerie is a realm of temptation, and Hell is the realm of trials. Is it weird that I low-key just want to like poke my head into this room, into this trial room, just to see what it's all about, you know? The first time we see Hell in the comics is in Journey into Mystery issue 102, and it's one of the 9 realms, and it's of course one of the many realms of death. It's actually the final resting place for the dead of the 9 realms. That's your last stop on the tour de life in those realms. So the appearance and nature of Hell can alter depending on what its queen wants. Sometimes Hell is a pit, sometimes it's a nice gorgeous palace, and sometimes it's a puzzle box. It doesn't always mean this is a horrible haunted place with ghouls screaming in your ears. No, not at all. It's more so the final resting place for those in the 9 realms. But if you're a it surely won't be a paradise like Elysium. It's going to be a bit hotter and a bit more harsher. Number 3, Sakaar. The first time we see this beautiful, terrifying land is in the Planet Hulk storyline from 2006. Sakaar is the 4th planet from the star Teo, and it's the only planet within the Teo star system known to be inhabited by sentient life. Sakaar is considered a savage planet that is full of extremes, but it's the most diverse geologically. I mean, we got great deserts, tropical paradises, mountains, volcanoes, Arctic wastelands, lakes, oceans, you name it. During the height of the Spike War, a cosmic vortex opened up near the planet's orbit, causing tidal waves, and the inhabitants actually viewed this vortex as the end times. I mean, yeah, that's more than fair. Even in Thor Ragnarok, they referred to this portal as the Devil's Anus. So, yeah, okay. The Great Devil's Anus portal disappears and then reappears over time. And what it does is it spits out debris and exotic alien species from all over the universe. So that one sweater you just can't seem to find anymore, maybe your ex doesn't have it after all. Maybe it's just getting shot out of the Great Vortex and now Korg is wearing it. Number 2, Asgard. While it may not exist anymore in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Odin has even said that Asgard is not a place, it is in fact a people. Well, it was once a place, and it was a pretty spectacular place too. As described by Lady Sif in the first Thor movie, Asgard is millennia beyond you in our pursuit of science and knowledge, and we have learned that there are some things that can never be understood. It's a land where magic and science are one of the same things. And in the comics, it was first seen into Journey into Mystery, issue 85. Asgard was sadly destroyed at the end of Thor Ragnarok when Loki unleashed Surtur to destroy the land while Hela was doing her thing getting stronger. Now the remaining survivors boarded a starship and now they live as fishermen in a small village called Tonsberg in Norway. So you never know, you could be living in a paradise in the sky and then now all of a sudden you're catching salmon. Life happens fast. And finally, number 1, Sanctum Sanctorum. Perhaps one of the most magical places in the MCU aside from Asgard would have to be Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum, which we see Thor make a brief pit stop to and accidentally messes it up with Mjolnir. It may just look like a normal fancy pants apartment in New York, but on the inside it's full of these wonderful ancient magic artifacts. It's actually the same place that Stephen Strange first gets his trusty cape. Now the New York Sanctum is seen in the MCU in numerous timelines. We see the ancient one protecting it during the events of Avengers Endgame, and Doctor Strange currently watches over it located at 1778 Bleecker Street, and at one point in the comics it was the headquarters of the Defenders and the New Avengers. So could we maybe see that in the movies? Hopefully, because there's a lot of room and there's only 2 dudes living there. Like, come on, rent's not cheap, guys. The first floor has the drawing room, library, living room, dining room, and Wong's kitchen. Sounds like a pretty good time. The second floor consists of a study, Doctor Strange's bedroom, Wong's bedroom, and multiple guest bedrooms, perfect for some new Avengers. And the third floor is composed of the meditation chamber, my personal favorite, the mystical library, and the storage area for occult artifacts. So when Wanda decides to let all the evil leave her, in the next Doctor Strange, maybe she can cozy up and take the top floor. Seems like those rooms are quite fitting.